Okay. Okay. Sorry. I'll start again. Welcome everyone to CB7's Committee on Environment and Sanitation, June 7th, 2022. And yes, available to the recording? No, Emily. We do have, this will be recorded for you on YouTube. So you'll be able to see the YouTube video. I don't know how soon afterwards, Carla, I don't know how soon after this meeting is over that it goes to YouTube.
Hopefully within the next 24 to 72 hours.
Okay, all right. No problem. Okay, so we'll begin. And first I want to say that we're going to go through the agenda. It's really a filled agenda. And I don't want to use this time for people who have complaints. I'm going to have Carla post phone number to the office or an email where you can take up those issues. We're just going to focus on what's on the agenda for now, which is what really these committee meetings should be all about, because the staff is very well equipped and adept at handling any issues that come up. And if you have anything good to say, which is good, that's good to say too. So with that said, yeah, Carlos just posted in the chat who you can reach out to if you have concerns about environment and sanitation. Your comments should be, focused on providing information at all possible. So with that said, I'm going to start by first and foremost, I have to say that there's an amendment to the agenda, and that was just an oversight. We have someone from the controller's office that's just going to make a brief presentation, and we'll follow up with that. So I just want to make sure that everyone received the updated agenda. I'm going to share my screen and just show to make sure. Can everyone see that? You can see the screen? Okay. So this is what the agenda is going to be. I don't know if anyone's here from SWAB, but we'll follow up shortly on that. Okay. And I'm just going to stop sharing that one and move on to making the committee guidelines. I'm just going to read them real quick. This is Betty Arce. I'm the chair of the Environmental and Sanitation Committee, and this is the Bronx Committee Board 7's Environmental Sanitation Committee. The committee agenda is as follows, and I shared that with you. We'll have some updates from DSNY, a brief presentation from the controller's office, and we're going to follow up on some updates from Department of Sanitation. And then the focus will be on reviewing our budget items going into September. On September 2nd, 2021, Governor Kathy Hochul signed into law Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, which authorizes the community board to run this meeting remotely, and minutes will be taken for record keeping. The minutes will appear on our website within days and can be requested from the Bronx CB7 staff at any time. If you're calling into the meeting on the conference, controls while joining from landline or cell by calling dial-up number. To hear all available commands, enter ** on your phone, *6 to mute or unmute yourself, *9 virtual raise hand. We have now instituted a code of conduct for meetings. Bronx Community Board 7 has a right to remove or ask a member of the public to leave a meeting or block participation of anyone who engages in inappropriate conduct, including but not limited to obscene or offensive images or language, personal attacks, threats, or any other behavior that reasonably impedes the orderly administration of the meeting. Repeated offenses will be reviewed by the board's executive committee or any other assigned committee for a ban, the amount of time to be objectively determined by that committee of the participant in the event of repeated disruptive behavior. Even if this meeting is in person and the outbursts or attacks continue, this will be considered disturbing the peace and the authorities shall be summoned. Everyone besides the speaker presenter will stay muted throughout the meeting. After each presentation is over, I will inquire if committee members have questions. Committee members will signify that they have a question by pressing the raise hand button on your screen if you're participating via Zoom, or request to speak through the chat or when the chair opens the floor. Members of the public who have joined through the online link will be able to ask questions and make a brief statement on the item after each presentation and after the committee has had an opportunity to ask clarifying questions by pressing again the raise hand button or request to speak through the chat or when the chair opens the floor. Only those recognized by the chair of the committee will be allowed to speak during the allotted time. We will stay on topic with the agenda items. Any other items will be acknowledged by the chair in new business or addressed at the next meeting, granted there is time and the committee agrees on the topic. Following the questions, discussion, and public comment portion, the committee will begin the discussion after each presentation agenda item and will conclude with the decision to vote on recommendation as appropriate. When the agenda is finished, the meeting will be adjourned. If there are any questions related to the meeting software or to our process, please use the chat function or to raise hand function now or contact the district manager. Okay, so let's stop that. Okay, I wanted to make sure I'm also hosting, so I want to make sure that I'm admitting anyone who needs to come into the room. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to also now take attendance. Okay, everyone can see that? Those who need to see it? Okay, great. Okay, Betty
I
Arce.
think we only see your a list. You need to
You're not seeing the,
not well. I'm not seeing the attendance.
okay, let me go out and do what we practiced doing before.
Yes.
Share. Okay, now, right?
We
Yes.
see it
now
now.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good. Okay, Betty Arce, present. Helene Hartman-Kutnowski,
Present. Good evening.
good evening. Gwendolyn Thomas D. Just check to see if anyone is coming into the room. No. Jean Hill.
I see her.
Jean, are you muted?
Jean Hill present.
Thank you. Rosalie Leslie. Not here yet. Hugo Gonzalez.
Hugo Gonzalez present.
Thank you. Lowell Green.
Lowell Green is present.
Thank you. Okay, we have quorum. We saved. Take this out. Okay. And we'll go back to the agenda. Okay. So now we have the agenda. Can you see the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I'm going to take up, and I know that I put it here, were minutes from our, no, I didn't. I'm sorry to say, I forgot to put up the minutes from our last meeting. Let me. My computer's a little slow. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this was meeting from May 3rd. We had DEP updates, a presentation on a project that's not in our committee board, but we may be benefiting from the project. We had the Bronx Council for Environmental Quality talk about the various programs that they're involved in. And we had, Steve was not here, but he provided some information which we will follow up on today's meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month? Hello?
I approve.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Hello?
Second.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so let me get this out and okay, so let's follow up really quickly. I don't think there's anyone here from Swab yet. I don't see anyone. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see what's going on because I can't do both. So we'll follow up with, allow Steve Caruso from the Department of Sanitation to provide some updates on what was provided last month. He'll fill in wherever possible. Go ahead, Steve.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. I apologize that I was not able to make the last meeting, but glad to be here tonight. I do have quite a few updates for you, so I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as possible without rushing. So I'll go through them and then more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. So as you may or may not know, we do have a sanitation worker exam, which is coming up. A date has not yet been announced for the actual exam, although the filing period starts tomorrow and it goes until June 28th. So if you are interested or know anyone that's interested for working for the department, simply go to the DSNY website. There's going to be a link there which you click and that'll take you to the DCAS website where you can register to take the exam. After that, you'll be notified by email as to when the actual exam is going to be and where you need to take it. More than happy to provide more information on some of the benefits of working for the city offline if anyone has any questions, but it's a great job, and working for the city is it's not a bad deal at all. You get excellent health insurance, good pay, nice retirement plan. So if anyone is interested, again, more than happy to answer any specific questions that you might have. But the filing period begins tomorrow and it goes until June 28th. We have a new commissioner, Commissioner Jessie Tisch. When she first started working with the department, she announced she had two major announcements. The first is that we are going to be resuming alternate side parking twice weekly again, beginning on July 5th, which, as we all know, is good news. It gives us a second opportunity every week to get down the street and clean the curb line. As you know, and as you've seen over the past year and a half, when we only have one day a week, if we have double parked cars, or if we have police or fire department activity, or a street is closed for construction or non-compliance from the motorists and we can't get down the street, we can't clean the curb line, which ultimately the onus is on the residents and the business owners. But nonetheless, with the second day, if we miss it the first time for whatever reason, we have another opportunity now to clean the street. So that's excellent news. Along with that, she also announced that we were going to be focusing on protected bike lane cleaning. So the department has purchased equipment to get into some of these more narrow protected bike lanes, which traditionally, with some of our older equipment, we weren't able to do. We needed a certain amount of space to be able to get some of our mechanical brooms and our holsters for snow clearing in there. But now with the new equipment, we'll be able to get in there and clean on a regular basis. So excellent news. Bulk appointments. In the past, you were required to call 311 to make a bulk appointment if you were going to be setting out a large item for collection. You no longer need to do that. Just set it out on either of your collection days. I always recommend waiting until your last collection day, and that's just because we find that towards the end of the week, the weights are lighter, so there's more room in the truck, and less of a chance that the bulk item may get left behind. So use discretion, but no longer need to make any appointment for that. Safe events, those events where you could bring some items that we don't take with regular household collection, e-waste, motor oils, fluorescent bulbs. Those events are back on. We just had one last month. So the next event is expected to be in the fall. No date just yet. I will keep you posted, but most likely sometime between September and November. But we do have the special household waste drop-off sites open. And those sites, they'll take the same items as they would at a safe event. So the one in the Bronx is located in Hunts Point next to the fish market. So we have also announced that we are going to be running containerized pilots in each borough. So as of right now, the main focus is on commercial waste. So we're looking to partner with a bid to set up some type of container on the street in which we'll collect all of the commercial garbage in that particular area. And of course, it's going to be serviced by a private carter. We don't service commercial waste, but this will be in partnership with the DOT. The reason why we want to do it within bid is because we can rely on them to be a partner and to help enforce some of the rules that go along with this. We ultimately want to make sure that all of the waste that's supposed to end up in the container ends up there, and we don't have material in the container and also curbside, which would defeat the whole purpose. So although the focus right now is on commercial, we're also going to be running some residential pilots as well. It's a step in the right direction. We've been talking about containerized collection and pushing it for quite some time now. It avoids the unsightly conditions that ultimately end up on the curb and in the street. It also reduces the amount of rat and rodent activity. So this is very exciting stuff. I'm not exactly sure just yet what we're going to see in the Bronx, but stay tuned. I do want to talk about the new law that went into effect that requires buildings with 150 plus units to submit a waste management plan. But before I do that, I just want to talk about the Bronx series of cleanups that we have with the New York Yankees and the borough president. So we did a series of cleanups last year with Bronx Community Board 4 and the New York Yankees. It was a success. We got a lot of volunteers to come on out. Ultimately, the community board took suggestions from the members of locations that they wanted us to go on out and do these community cleanups. So I was out there with my team, the volunteers, the cleanup van. We brought all the tools, and we all worked together. And that was a great show of everyone just working in unison towards a common goal. And the Yankees were kind enough to gift the volunteers free tickets to Yankee games. And then the winner out of the series of cleanups, so the cleanup that collected the most amount of material, they were able to attend a Yankees game and sit in a VIP box. I'm not sure of the official, or the technical name of it, but it was the VIP experience. I was there personally. It was a nice time, and the Yankees were excellent hosts. So they had contacted us again this year, but instead of just concentrating on Community Board 4, they partnered with the borough president, and they said that they want to do this across the Bronx. So we'll be hosting our second annual Bronx cleanup over the summer. That's going to be between July and September. It'll be 6 cleanups, I believe. So if anyone has any specific locations that they would like to see addressed, you can certainly let me know. I'll put it in for consideration. It's my understanding that participants will be eligible to receive Yankee tickets. And again, whichever cleanup does collect the most material will win a VIP Yankees experience, just like they did last year. We're finalizing dates, we're finalizing locations. So again, if anybody has any suggestions, now would certainly be the time to let me know.
Okay, we'll, you can put it in the chat, please, if you have some suggestions. Go on, Steve.
Okay. And finally, a new law went into effect as of April 1st that requires all new construction and any buildings of 150 plus units making some type of substantial renovations to submit a waste management plan. Ultimately, the goal is to reduce the amount of trash that we see out on the curb for prolonged periods of time. Again, it's unsightly, it negatively impacts pedestrian flow, it increases rat and rodent activity, and quality of life. So that's the reason behind all this. I'll give you a very brief explanation of what the plan should include, just so that you have an idea. Hold on, let me just pull that up because I don't want to mess this up. Okay. An estimated amount of trash, recyclables, and compostable material that will be created when operating at full capacity. A storage plan to ensure sanitary conditions for 150% of expected waste between scheduled collection. Plan to keep recycling and composting separate from regular trash. how and where the material will be set out for DSMY collection, an education plan for tenants, including signage placement, and compliance with applicable DOB and New York City building codes. So it does need to be a pretty detailed plan. We have been receiving a lot of phone calls about it in my office specifically. So if anyone contacts the community board and they need more information, you could certainly send them over to me. I'll make sure to put them in contact with the right people. But any drawings and plans that have already been submitted to the Department of Buildings and are pending approval were required to submit this plan within 60 days from April 1st. At this point, waste management plans should be submitted at the same time that they submit their designs to the Department of Buildings.
Okay.
We also
So-
have a waste,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, we also have a waste management calculator, which will assist them in coming up with the numbers that they put into their plan. So they can visit our website. The calculator is available, and we're also offering zero waste trainings to building managers as well. So we're trying to guide everyone as best we can.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm going to open this up to 3 questions only because it's already 7:27. So I want to keep moving. I'm just going to bring up the first question regarding that waste management plan for the buildings. So if a building comes, maybe you don't have to answer this, but I'm assuming that a building that is, or a developer that is requiring a CB7 approval for, or a letter of approval for their building, that's something that the community board should ask about, which is their waste management plan. Yeah, that there is a plan in there.
Yes, I would say so, yes.
Okay. Okay. From the committee members, anyone have a question for anything that Steve has raised?
Yeah, I have a question because I just want to be clear. Steve, that's for brand new buildings only. This is not for buildings that are already in existence.
Correct, unless
Management plan.
if the building is making some type of significant renovations, at that point, then they would be required, but otherwise, no.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. That answered it.
You're welcome.
I have a question on organic. You mentioned organic recycling. Can you confirm the status? Are we saying that we're back, that it's back in, that it is restored to the budget, composting and whatnot?
No, unfortunately, expansion of curbside composting is on hold. What I was referring to with the organics was just that any building that is submitting a waste management plan does need to include that in their plan. But as of right now, the expansion of our curbside composting program is on hold until further notice.
It is.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Then one other very quick question on East Marshallou Parkway,
Mhm.
not actually on the parkway, on the sidewalk, on the east side where we have a lot of trees and whatnot. Is that sanitation or parks? It's East Marshallou Parkway.
Anything that's got grass on it, Helene, is the parks on the
So
other
it is.
side. Yes.
Okay,
It'll
so
be
I
parks.
guess I'll have to take that
Yeah,
up. at
follow
park.
up, we'll follow up with that.
Thank
Okay,
you.
And if you have an issue with that, Helene, contact the office and we'll work with the parks folks on that.
Yeah,
That's an
I need
issue.
barbecuing signs too. It's getting bad.
Yeah, okay, so
Thank
that's
you.
okay. We'll follow up with that, okay. Any other questions regarding anything that Steve has raised? Steve, as far as that, the cleanups,
Mhm.
is there a limit on we're talking a street, I'm trying to understand what would be the nature of the cleanup? Is there like some kind of a maximum minimum in terms of square footage area that people are cleaning up? Is it a block? What are we talking about?
No, there really aren't any limitations. It needs to be a public space, so a public street. We're not going to go into any parks or private
Right.
property. but as long as it's a city street, it's fine. And there's no, there's no requirement for or limitation on the amount of blocks that it could be. Essentially, it's going to be a volunteer cleanup or a
Okay.
community cleanup, which I've done some that are, one block in length and, 10 blocks. So depending on the amount of volunteers, that's really going to dictate how much ground we could cover within the allotted time frame.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. The information on some of these things, is it available on the on DSNY's website, or is there a link to a lot of these things? You provided the links from the last meeting. Was that those links? Like for the residential, the containerized commercial waste, that's on DSNY's website?
So a lot of what I had just mentioned, you can find on the website. If you go to the homepage, there's a banner, and
Okay.
the banner, it scrolls and it'll have all these new programs, initiatives, and updates and whatnot. You could click on them for more information. The sanitation worker filing period, that's definitely going to be on there. The resumption of ASP and the bike lane cleaning, that'll most likely be posted there as well. Bulk appointments no longer needed, that should be there as well. Safe events, we do post there when we have a date available. Being that we just had the Bronx one, we're not going to see that on the website until we announce the next one, which again will most likely be in the fall. The Clean Curbs program, you could find information on the Clean Curbs program, but it's just basically going to announce what the pilot is. It's not going to give you any more specifics than that.
Okay.
The information that I had sent you last time was focused around some of the grants that we were offering at that time for any bids that were interested in submitting a proposal for it, but maybe felt as though they didn't have the necessary resources to be able to actually execute. But that deadline has already passed. So that would be irrelevant.
Okay, there's a question in the chat. The containerized program, is that for school trash included? Yeah, go ahead.
As of right now, we haven't announced any type of pilot with school trash, although I'm not going to say that that's not something that we may implement in the future. Again, we're going to have different types of containerized pilots that we're going to be working on. So I can't say for sure. That would be a great idea, though, if we could work on some school trash. But right now, the main focus is around the commercial waste.
Okay, and just one last question, this is it. Who handles hazardous dump sites near sidewalks where people walk on? Liz, you want to explain that? What do you mean dump sites?
So we have a sidewalk, it's a public sidewalk. People use it, they do, we've taken pictures of people actually, well, from their backside so that we don't see their faces. But we actually have taken people, but right next to where they walk, there is a perimeter fence, and it's a hazardous dump site for about 200 feet. Who handles that? Because
Where is this? Where is this?
this is on Webster Avenue between 197th and about 2 blocks down from there.
Is this on the side of the metro? Is this where you
Yeah,
clean?
this is
That's
on the side of the metro, but it's not on the metro, if that makes any sense. It's not on the metro.
Why do you call it a hazardous dump site?
Because there's things in there, you can smell things that I think, that are hazardous. There's broken glass, there's who knows what's in it, but it's very visible, and there's a huge opening which anybody can go in, including kids, and it's right across the street from the public elementary school, by the way.
It's PS 54. Okay, so go ahead, Steve.
Hi, Liz. So I know we've spoke about this location in particular in the past. It's my understanding that a large portion of that may be private property.
Wow, that piece, really?
So
Okay,
that's where things get complicated, because we can't go onto private property. We need the Department of Health to step in. They send the commissioner's order to abate, basically notifying the owner that they have to clean it. And if they don't, then we may be able to go there and clean it. But that area is fenced off. So although there might be a hole in the fence, legally, we're not allowed to just go onto the property. We need to have, when it comes to private property, we need to have access. So there actually needs to be a gate and it needs to be wide open. There are a lot of legalities surrounding accessing private property, but it complicates the situation.
We'll take this, okay, we'll take this offline and we'll follow up on that. We'll see what we can do, follow up and see whether it is private or not. I know that there was a lot on our block. It was cleaned up by, we had sanitation actually clean up this house, but it took a while. It took almost a year to get into that property to clean it up. So we'll follow up, Liz. We'll get the actual address and plot, the lot, and see whether in fact it is, who owns it, and see what we can do. Okay, thank you. And the lot on Oliver Place needs cleaning, but that is also, that's not, Oliver Place is not DSNY, that is, what is that, DOT, and that's DOT, right? That lot is supposed to be not only clean, it's supposed to be totally revamped and into like a community park of some sort, from what I understand. So that'll have to, that we can take up with the Parks Committee, because we do follow up on Oliver Place. So we'll take that where we can on that one. Is that's the lot you're talking about, right, Serial? Which is that lot?
Yeah, that lot is full of garbage. The
I know
community-
it is, but
it's like at a standstill.
we know that, but again, it's a standstill, but it has moved from being where it was to someplace else, where there's a group called the Bridge, I don't know, the Bridge Works, that is supposedly going to be the organization that's supposedly going to be overseeing.
They
how
can't
this
do,
parking-
anything because there's no sidewalk to enter it. So it's so.
Yeah, but it's DOT, right now, it's part of DOT, it's not parks and it's not sanitation, so that's another one we'll need to follow up. We'll follow up with the Parks Committee tomorrow, maybe I'll bring it up with Barbara, okay? Thank you, Steve, thank you very much. A lot of this information is in the, like I said, we'll post it on our website for people to follow up. If you have suggestions on places that need to be cleaned up, I know Serial posted Parkside Place, it's always a mess. That's a good one. And then along Webster Avenue, where I know that Friends of Marshall Parkland was doing some cleanup. So let's see what we can do to help clean up our neighborhoods.
I think I did have one quick question. The program with the Yankees, because we were doing block cleanups a year or so ago, we were doing it with the police department. Is that the basic same kind of idea that we go block by block, clean the outside street? Serial was involved in that. Is that the kind of cleanup you're talking about, Stephen?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank
So
you.
it would be all the participants of that, let's say, like Gina's saying, NYPD, different organizations, all the participants would be eligible for Yankee tickets, let's say? Is there like a limit on the number of people that would,
Nope, so there's no limit, no
okay,
limit.
all right, okay, good. So-
But just to make a point, PD is not involved with this. This is just going to be DSNY, the New York Yankees, and the Borough President's Office.
Okay, all right, okay, got it.
But we are doing cleanups with the 52nd precinct. We have some cleanup scheduled for the near future.
Okay. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you very much. Okay, great.
You're welcome.
Yes, anyone else? That's it? Okay, so moving along, we're gonna have Effie Artisan from DEP. She has, I think, an update. Effie?
Hey, good evening, everyone. The only update I had this month is we have our Green Infrastructure Grant Program tomorrow, June 8th, from 2 to 3:30. So if anyone is interested in learning about funding that's available for green roof retrofits, and this is for private property, definitely join in. You can register. I sent the link over to the community board. We'll provide the requirements for eligibility for this program and how to apply, etc. That's it on my end.
Okay, great. Do you have that link and can you post it in the chat again?
Sure. Sure, I'll post it now.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Effie, before you run off, I'm not quite sure I understand what it is this program is. Can you kind of give us a little brief explanation?
Sure. So DP for a while now has been providing grants. In this case, is for private property owners, and how you can better retrofit your property to put green on it. So, it depends how big your property is. So there are certain requirements, and also if you're interested in like a green roof or permeable pavement on your property, things of that nature. So this is a workshop, and what we do is we sit down, we discuss with the attendees what the requirements are to apply for it, if your property qualifies for it, etc. It's usually bigger properties, but now they've included all types of properties. So I could see if I could get some more information on it, but if you check out our website, which when I send the link, you'll see it'll direct you to DP's website, which is for GI grant program, and it'll give you some more information and some examples of prior years who we gave grants to. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Effie.
you. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to move to, I don't see anyone from SWAB. Is anyone from SWAB here? Okay, I'm going to present now Greer Mayhew from the Controller's Office, who's going to give us a briefing on the climate database dashboard.
Yes, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Grim Mayhew. I am the Bronx Borough Director in the Office of the New York City Controller. And yes, I am going to provide a briefing on our New York City climate dashboard. Can I have access to share the screen before I can just show it, walk through?
Let me, what do I do? Just share screen? What do I do?
You have to make him the host.
I have to make him the host. Who's that, Carla?
Yes, this is Carla.
So I make him the host and then I'm no longer the host? Let me see.
Yes, but you can always claim it.
Okay, let me do this. Host. Make host. Okay. Change host. Okay, Greer, you're the host.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is share my screen. Okay. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, great. So this is our website. So to access our dashboard, you simply have to just go to the services tab, and then it's the second option for the public, right? And then you click on it and then it comes up, and then here we are. So I'm gonna just go over like a brief overview of the dashboard and and go through a little bit for you guys can see what actual type of information we have. Okay, so our dashboard is basically an accountability tool, right? To track our collective efforts to address the climate crisis and also hold us all accountable to the goals that the city has set. Climate advocates, decision makers, and the general public can see where we are making the most progress and where we have furthest to go. The dashboard focuses on two things. One is reducing our carbon footprint, and the second is making our city more resilient to climate impacts. Just for everyone's information, the data we drew from is all publicly available information that is routinely updated and was relevant to address the two topics that I mentioned above. And from that, we can go on to the first option. Okay, so the energy. So on this page, it shows that basically as of 2020, 3/4 or 75% of energy consumption in the city is fossil fuel-based gas and oil, right? And the actual reality is even worse because there was a recent closure of the Indian Point nuclear plant. Wow, can't say that thing. 3 times fast. So yeah, so now our fossil fuel based gas and oil footprint is much larger than is actually articulated. And possibly the next round of updates will be updated on here. And it also shows that that we are about 30% of our way to our 1,000 megawatts solar target, which is set by the city. And to reach it, we would need to average about 78 megawatts of solar installed for the next 8 years, okay? So, and that's the graph that indicates that in each year of incremental growth in that. And you guys can play with it. And you can see at the bottom here, there's some sources if you wanna know where the information came from, okay? And on to emissions. Let me go down. Cool. So, okay. So New York City has only reduced emissions by 25% since 2005, with a goal to reduce emissions by 80% of those 2005 levels by 2050. Okay. And 70% of our emissions come from our building stock. As you can see here at the graph, you can see most of it is from buildings, and then the second greatest is from transportation, and then the third is from waste. And also over 40% of New York City buildings have failing energy rates, right? So that's something that we also indicated on this graph as well. Oh, right here, sorry, the bottom. And then you can also see citywide emissions based on residential, commercial, institutional, and manufacturing and construction. Yeah. And then we go on to, let's go to transportation. So, less than 1% of vehicles registered in New York City are electric, but the city's 630 electric vehicles charging stations bring us over halfway to our target of 1,000 charging stations by 2035. Okay, there was a the federal infrastructure bill actually provided $7.58 billion for electric vehicle infrastructure programs, and the governor signed a law that set a goal for all new passenger cars and trucks sold in New York State to be to produce zero emissions by 2035. Okay, and then also there's like other information about bike lanes, biking parking spot, and then electric vehicles over here. Yes, I just wanna, you guys can go through that a little bit more if you would like. On to climate finance. So, the comptroller. So the comptroller manages, right, the New York City retirement system, right? And it's one of the largest institutional investors and users of all its tools to advance the transition to a green economy, including divesting from fossil fuel reserve owners, investing in climate solutions like renewable energy, and resiliency infrastructure, and engaging with corporate actors to encourage more ambitious climate action across the economy, right? The city's pension funds have divested $2.8 billion from fossil fuels and $1 billion remaining to complete full divestment, okay? We've invested $7 billion in climate solutions into companies that derive a majority of their revenue from climate mitigation, adaptation, resiliency activities, such as renewable energy, energy efficiency, and pollution prevention and low carbon buildings, okay? So this milestone surpasses initial goals set by 3 of our retirement systems in 2018 to double their investments in climate solutions from $2 billion to $4 billion by 2022. Those systems adopted a goal to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2040. And as part of this commitment, the 3 systems set a goal to reach a total of $37 billion in climate solutions investments by 2035. Okay. So I know that was a lot of information, but you could definitely go through here and it's a little bit more condensed. So on to resiliency. All right. So this basically discusses, right, the impacts that our environment will encounter as a result of climate change. So including coastal flood risks, heat, stormwater, and flash flood risks as well. So we can start with the coastal flood risk. So this comes from storm surges during hurricanes and nor'easters that flood areas along the coast. Nearly 2.5 million New Yorkers live in the 100-year floodplain today, and low-lying neighborhoods like the Far Rockaways, Staten Island, Eastern Manhattan, and Western Queens will become more vulnerable as sea levels rise. This map below, right, shows the current and future floodplains alongside the capital investments that the city has made in resiliency infrastructure projects. So yeah, so you can play along with this and see, you can see like the resiliency infrastructure projects that are in the area. So for you guys, we can zoom in just a little bit and see, oops, sorry. Let me see if I can do this right.
We have in CB7, we have just a little bit of, we're not actually in a floodplain, but
Right.
we just like barely have a piece of it.
Yeah, you're more inland. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're more inland. So yeah, so I mean, so you can see projects around your area or whatnot. So on to heat, which would impact all of the Bronx actually. So heat vulnerability index. So this index combines data about urban heat island and heat island, and social vulnerability to identify neighborhoods with not only greatest physical exposure to heat, like less trees and parks, but also where residents might be most vulnerable to the heat exposure because of age or lack of access to air conditioning and other social economic factors, right? The map below shows, I'm sorry, why is that button keep pressing? The map below allows you to look at the relationship between heat vulnerability and vegetation cover alongside cool-it spray showers and drinking fountains that you can use to cool off in the hot weather. So that's something that, you can see here. So if
I'm sorry, could you, so you're saying like, where is the vegetative cover across the city? Can that be?
Yes, I
show
can.
us
I can sure do. I can right here. Perfect.
Vegetative cover.
You can see that now?
We're up in the CB7 is.
Yeah, you're up here.
All the way up there.
Yeah, and they didn't. It wasn't like split up by. I don't believe by.
I know it won't be by. It won't
Yes,
be by CB7. But I'm just curious. What is that? What would be the gray? The gray is where there's no vegetative cover at all.
Right.
And the darker the green, the more there is. Right.
Right.
Okay, that'll be something for us to look at. Yeah, I mean, that's a concern that I have in CB7, that we've lost so many street trees. And there's nothing like the cool breeze or the shade of a tree when it's very hot,
Right.
and you really feel the difference when you're under the shade of a canopy of trees. It's a shame that we don't have that. And there are blocks where I walk and there's like absolutely like so few trees. It's very sad.
Right. So yeah. So
and in relation to that, because we're up and down Mashula Park where we have all of the trees, and we're not too far from Van Cortlandt, does that help us, or are we losing too much trees in between so we won't have as much shading as we normally have had?
Okay, so I would know that. I'm sorry, but I don't know. I don't know if that would impact you guys because of the Van Cortlandt, but I can definitely ask. So we have a chief climate officer who has more is actually has an ecological background, who can provide more insight on that. But I can definitely ask to see how that would, since you're saying that the park is beside your community. So
yeah, because Mashula Parkland goes all the way down.
Right.
And it, kind of fronts both sides, east and west. I'm not sure if it's east or west or north and south. And then we're near to Van Cortlandt Park. So that's a big expanse of trees over there. But there have been some cutting down of some trees in certain areas. So overall, how does that affect our community?
Okay. Yeah,
it's hot. It gets hot, Jean. We've lost a lot of street trees. We're losing them.
Yes,
they're being cut down. They're not being well taken care of. I mean, Liz can chime in on the condition of some of our trees, but that is the whole point. The whole point is looking at this tells us we can see better how our community is affected by the and not just the heat, but we are vulnerable in certain areas, definitely. you know.
Right,
And
right.
then
So
one other quick question, because you're talking about changing some of the energy processes that we use. So you've been putting in these charging stations for people who are kind of switching over to electric cars, but is there a map layout? Because I run across them just driving around, but have you guys laid all this out? How many charging stations do we have in the Bronx? I know we had conversation about this previously.
So I believe in, let me see. If it's not here, it would be, I think it would be, hold on, let me see. Let me just check it really quick, because there was a map here. You might have changed it. Okay, I believe there is a map. I can find out for you. I don't think, it might not be reflected in this particular graph, I mean, in this particular dashboard, but I can find out. Because would you like to see like where exactly?
Yeah, because, we should know, like, I know there's some off of Gun Hill Road, there's some in some of the interblocks that I've seen charging stations, only because I happen to be driving around looking for parking spaces. So we should have a fairly good idea. And I know they were talking about putting one over there near Fordham Hill houses. They were going to put a charging station.
That was for the ambulance.
That was only for the ambulance, and
At
then
that
one
point,
at the hospital. But they have some in the blocks now for regular cars. So we should have sort of an idea of where they're going to be, because some people are switching over to electric cars, or, I guess they call them electric or dual cars. I'm not sure what the term is now.
Hybrids.
Hybrid, yeah, that's hybrid.
Yeah, hybrid cars. So we should know where these are going to be located.
Okay, I can find out where there's a map of such. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so that
Thank
was.
you. I'm sorry, Hugo in the chat has put in some information about electric vehicles. So you can see that too, G. That's a link. New York one.
Okay, thanks, Betty. I'll go look. Thanks, Hugo.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Greer.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so that covered heat. So stormwater and flash flood risk. So right, so this type of flooding comes from heavy rainfall that overwhelms storm sewers, right? It is distinct from coastal flooding in that it can affect communities inland, like we mentioned. So at the bottom, you can see, this is the map here, and you can see the location of all the DEP sewer improvement projects alongside areas that are most vulnerable to moderate and extreme rainfall. So if you were to just see, let me kind of zoom in here really quick. So you guys would be a little bit further
We're
up.
all the way at the top.
Yeah.
Near the top there.
So like right here, right?
Yeah, in that area, yeah.
Right here, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see this one DEP green infrastructure project.
That's 81.
81, oops, sorry.
Okay.
So
it's very interactive.
Yes, it's very interactive, right? And you can see it up against each category. So you can see based on the green infrastructure projects where the DEP, a sewer capital project is. So like that comes up, there's one right next to it. So yeah, so you can play around. I don't want to dive too much. And then lastly, just about feedback. We plan on really updating this on an annual basis, and we encourage feedback. So we have actually a feedback page here where you can put in your information. You can also, of course, email me and contact me if there's anything that you see that we should add, or any type of categories you think, what type of other items we should track a part of this. So yeah, so other than that, that's really it. If you have any other questions, I will try to answer them as best as possible. But most likely I would defer to my the chief climate officer in our team there, who may have more information and more accurate information for you guys.
So are there any questions for Greer from the committee? Committee members first? Community board members? Other community board members? Okay, Cyria, go ahead. Keep it short.
Thank you. Good evening. Can we go back to the emissions with the buildings?
Sure. I'm sorry, I just didn't. Okay, let me go back to sharing screen. Okay.
Now, I understand when it's with transit, everybody's switching over to batteries, but the buildings, when you say emissions,
Mhm.
Is that strictly the heating, the burning of heat
Yes.
fuel for
Mhm.
warmth?
Yes, that's
Yes,
exactly it.
that's
That's
exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so I know we got rid of coal. We used to be very big on that. That's gone. The emissions that are going up in the air, and that's the largest group that's causing all the emissions or the poisonous emissions. What is being done to the buildings? Are they supposed to have to, I didn't catch like what they're supposed to be doing to upgrade or to filter out the harmful particles that are going
Yeah.
into our air.
So there was a
Penalty do they face if they don't do it, or when they illegally release that black smoke like for 15, 20 minutes and then they go back to gray smoke? Because I see that a lot. Some buildings release super black smoke and then for 15, 20 minutes and then they go back to a regular gray. Is that considered a violation? Is that emissions? What's the story with that?
so I
Just culprits.
okay. What is what are buildings supposed to do? So right now they have, I don't know if you noticed in different buildings, they have like energy scores like C+, D+. So in 2019, the city passed a law, it's actually here, it's called the Climate Mobilization Act. And it's supposed to basically require the limiting of emissions from new and existing buildings over 25,000 square feet, right? And so it's supposed to do that and also require solar and green roofs for new buildings and construction. So that's how the city is trying to reduce, right? Emissions coming from buildings. And I believe it's supposed to be, we'll reduce emissions from the city's largest buildings by 40% by 2030, and then 80% by 2050. So it's an incremental reduction in emissions that they believe will happen. And so they'll start, I believe they're supposed to be starting to enforce those scores in 2024 or something like that. I have to get back. I have to get back to you on that. But that was a city law that was supposed to help reduce emissions for residential buildings. In regards,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry. In regards to the gray smoke, I don't know. I'm not. I think that's like more with like I believe DEP, who manages that. But yeah. But that's the way the city is trying to manage that. And
Sergio, the way that the city is doing this as well, to Maria's point, is their buildings are going to have to switch from, I believe I forget which number, fuel oil, which is the one that is that causes the most emissions, but I think it might be number 6. And they have to start switching. It's a whole retrofit. It's very expensive, but eventually has to be done. You have buildings that need to, it's very difficult and costly to do that retrofit so that they can then accept the fuel oil that is less, that causes less emissions than the one that's, I think it's number 10, which is the one that a lot of buildings have been using. And so they're trying to reduce it down to some of the ones that are being shown that we can see on the screen here. Number 2.
I think they had to go down to number 2 oil, if he could double check that, because I know we had to switch out and we're down to using only number 2 oil to heat the building and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So I think, but we did this within the last 10 years that we had to do the switch out. So I think they came up with a law a little while earlier where we had to start switching out in these larger buildings.
Right, so that's what's going to happen to most of the buildings in the city, especially the older ones. It's going to take a while, so there's issues of how do they go about providing financing for these buildings to be able to retrofit the use of a less toxic, I'm going to say that toxic oil for heating. Okay. All right, let's go ahead, Greer. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, that was it. Yeah, you explained it.
Okay. All right. And Hugo, you have a question?
Yes, Greer, I just tried the dashboard and I was looking at the, give me 1 second, the Energy Star score, all benchmark buildings. I don't see a lot of buildings on it. I mean, it looks like a lot of buildings on the map, but when I get down to my neighborhood, which is Norwood, and I'm actually trying to get to my own apartment building, obviously, just to test it out, it's not there, and it's also a little hard to figure out which building specifically is being benchmarked, because the building name is not in the legend on the left.
Okay. Would these be, is this voluntary, or how is this information gathered here?
So it is actually, it's gathered through the open data law. I mean, oops, the New York City open data website. So all of that is from here. So we can actually go look. Let me see here.
And we'll have to keep moving along. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So we'll get back to you on that, but I can definitely follow up and see if it was volunteer or not.
So Hugo,
I
if
don't
you
know
don't
if the-
see this is something that you could possibly give feedback on to the,
Yes.
on the
Yes.
dashboard, and let them know, because once we're finished with the meeting, I'm also interested in going in and see, checking it out myself. So if I have any questions or issues, we can use that ability to provide feedback on it and see why it's what's missing, what's not missing.
Mhm.
But these, what you're saying is the open data law, does that mean that these are all buildings that are somewhere in city
In this-
records?
Yes, it is somewhere in this database. So hold on, let me go back if I could here. This screen is kind of confusing. Yes. So all the buildings are from that data set. So I think I would have to backtrack and figure out from that data set, where do they get their data from? But I can follow up with you. And if there's a particular building that you're looking for, maybe we can also help with that as well.
And if it's not there, they should let you know that, right?
Right, and let us know why.
Okay, all right. All right. Any other questions? Well, this is very interesting. Like I said, this is an interesting piece. I think this will be helpful for a lot of us. I would appreciate if our committee members were to go in and, review it and see what they think of it, and provide feedback to the controller's office to improve it, enhance it, do whatever is possible to make it a useful tool
Yes.
for us.
Yes, and just a note, as I mentioned in the presentation, that we are like updating the information every year, but because this is new, and we just released it a couple months ago, the first real update will be during I think in August. So around in the end of summer. So, if there's any more obviously suggestions or any things that you pointed out and noted was like, that was lacking, let me know, and hopefully it'll be included in the first
Okay.
round of edits
All right.
or updates.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Of course, and I'll put my information in the chat for everyone, and also the link to the
Thank you
dashboard.
very much. Yes, absolutely. Okay.
No problem.
All right. So moving right along.
Next.
We're going to now, one last piece before we go to our the review of the budget. The Botanical Gardens is having an event tomorrow. It's called an edit-a-thon. They are editing the Wikipedia on the environment of the Bronx. It's going to be held tomorrow, June 8th. At the garden. It's free to go in. You can come with information of what you know about the Bronx's parks. Take your information there, and we have in the chat we have a link to it, and it's I think from 11 to 5. So you can go there with your information, and any information you have about Bronx parks, they would be like, they'll look at it and possibly include it in the Wikipedia on Bronx parks. Okay, and you can go to the link and see. And Hugo said he's going to be there. Great, wonderful. So that'll be that event, and that's what we have so far. As far as Bronx SWAP, they weren't available. Just to let you know that I've attended their meetings. The Bronx SWAP stands for Solid Waste Advisory Board, and initially it was just looking at some of the issues related to so like the waste management facilities throughout the city and certain boroughs and certain communities, and it's expanded to also include concerns about sanitation and environment. A very interesting meeting. Sometimes it's hard for me to attend because they conflict with meetings that we have on the community board. But I will be following up. I had invited them to come, and they also invited themselves to come, but unfortunately there's no one here. I will follow up with them, and anything that I learn, I will share and have it posted on our website for anyone who's interested. And the meetings are open to anyone who's interested in issues related to environment, waste management, specifically in the Bronx right now. There's one in every borough has one. The most active, I believe, is in Manhattan and Brooklyn, but the one in the Bronx is getting there. They're moving along slowly but surely. So any other information I'll share it the next time we meet. Let me just check. I believe there's some questions or messages. Okay. Thank you, AJ. Yes, I believe so. Yes. Environmental injustices are horrible and need to be fully addressed. So maybe you may want to join the Bronx SWAT because they do follow up on environmental justice. And when I get the information, I will share that with you and you can attend the next meeting. So now we're going to follow up on our, oops, sorry, I just opened up something that I shouldn't have opened up. Sorry, let me just close that. We're going to look at, let me close this off, our budget. We want to be able to follow up on the budget because we're, come September, we don't want to wait until September to do this. And I think we need to look at our items. Some of the items I think we need to remove or we need to enhance them because they are I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the screen to open up. Did everyone get a copy? I sent, you should have gotten copies of the budget items. I hope, I'm talking about the committee members. Okay. Let me see.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm having problems with the screen here. Let me see if I can get. I can't seem to find my. Let me pick it up again. Okay, let's see.
Can you find the email you sent us? Because it was on the email you sent us.
So I have the budget priorities. I'm gonna bring it up. Can you see this? No, you can't see this on my screen. Let me just. Can you see my screen?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's kind of small, Betty. Can you enlarge that?
I don't know. Let me see how I can do this. Okay.
I don't have the budget request. I see a reference guide, but I don't see.
No, yeah, I sent a subsequent, it was a reference guide, but I then sent what specifically what has to do with our, can you see this now?
Yes, that's
Mhm.
much better.
Okay, all right. So I just wanted us to go over this, if, you know, your suggestions and your recommendations, if these are things that we should keep or we should delete them and have them followed up through the office. There are some things that we put here and we put them here year after year. And what the feedback we get from the agency is, you know, either follow up in another way, nothing can be done at this point, you know, at least through the budget. Not, that doesn't mean these are things that can't be addressed, but this may not be the most appropriate, using the budget request may not be the most appropriate. I have to reduce a little bit because I can't see it myself. That there should be some other way of doing this, and I think some of it can be. So as an example of the first one, which is a capital expense, evaluate a public location or property for green infrastructure, rain garden, stormwater, green streets, green playgrounds. And we were looking at and considering along the Shula Parkway, the catch basins, flooding after storms on both Bainbridge Avenue and Decatur and Van Cortlandt Avenue East need to be addressed. The response from OMB was further study by the agency of this request is needed. Therefore, OMB does not take any position at this point. Maybe we can continue to keep these kinds of things, but I wonder if there's other things, or we can follow up on this through another way. Possibly through maybe our city council representatives to help us find a way to address something like this. Any suggestions from the committee on this one?
I think we need, it says location Avenue, Bainbridge. And nowhere does it say Marshallou Parkway.
Right, and it should include that.
I think it has to be elaborated more. And somehow, I think we should put in that city structures have gotten ruined because like at St. James Park, they got flooded out. They can't use that facility because of flood damage.
Right, that would be a park. That I have to, let me just put under explanation for number 25.
Could I also add something, Betty?
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
Yeah.
The agency for several years now has been implementing green infrastructure, whether it's rain gardens, permeable pavement projects throughout the city, throughout the Bronx, playgrounds, any playgrounds that are being reconstructed, the green element is always taken into account. So I'm just also, I have a question here. And this, just to clarify, it's nothing else. These are your budget priorities and you can put down what you'd like. But when it says here, in addition to repairing catch basins, if there are catch basins that need to be serviced, obviously we inspect them and maintain them. If they need additional cleaning or anything like that, it should be reported to 311 and our crews come out and service them. So I'm not sure if the request is for additional sewer infrastructure, for additional green infrastructure, or is it just to address flooding at specific locations? Flooding can be the cause of numerous things. During Storm Ida, everything got flooded. Locations that never were flooded because there was such intense rainstorms during that time. And during these intense rainstorm events are more frequent now. So instead of the 1.75 inches an hour that our storm sewers can handle, you're having 3 inches or more. So sometimes you have other types of flooding. It could be due to clogged catch basins. It could be due to numerous things. So just an FYI, I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, and I appreciate it because again, it's a question of whether we are putting things into this budget request that are items that can really be acted upon in a different way, like you said, as opposed to this very specific kinds of item to a very specific area. This can be addressed differently, and that's why I'm suggesting that we just take it out, because it's not going to be addressed this way if we just have it in a budget request. So that's my recommendation. We can take the same information and follow up with the agency through our office. That's my suggestion.
Betty, it's Helene. Can I just ask, if we take it out, I mean, part of the problem may be that we're not specific enough. Effie, is there some way to have someone come and kind of look at the area to see what we really should be asking for? Because it is confusing, because we're not experts.
With green infrastructure, we don't particularly ask for locations. We put green infrastructure everywhere we feel we can put it, right? Putting green infrastructure in is a very involving process. We take soil samples. We have to make sure there's not too much bedrock, which the Bronx has a ton of bedrock. There's a whole bunch of things that are taken into account. Also, green infrastructure does not mean flood proof. Okay, so if you're going to put some rain gardens, it doesn't mean nothing's ever going to flood again. So that's why I feel like the request is two different things. Is
Yeah.
it, oh, Community Board 7 is requesting additional green infrastructure be installed? Where, why? We take that into consideration with any projects. Like I said, if Parks Department is doing some work and we can put green infrastructure into it, we do that already. We've already put in rain gardens, and we've shared those locations with every community board where DEP's green infrastructure is. But then that second part where you have the explanation, where is your flooding? I
Right.
think if you can be more specific, send me an email. Where is your flooding? And when does it tend to happen? And how about next time you have an issue there, make sure it's reported to 311, send it to me so I can tell you what our field ops found was the cause of that flooding. Sometimes the sewer systems are overtaxed, like we talked about before, because of the extensive amount of rainfall. So it could be a lot of various things. I think being more specific with your locations and what your issues are. Is it flooding? Where? When does it tend to happen? Call it into 311. Let us come out there when it's happening to see what's causing it.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I mean, I thought we were very specific by saying it's on Bainbridge, on Decatur, Van Cortlandt Avenue East. But again, I'm just, like I said, I think if there's an issue, if you feel that there's a concern that if you take it out of here, that it won't ever get addressed is one thing. Then if that's the case, then we need to be much more specific, and we have to do the job of following up, not just with the DEP, but also with whoever can get this job done. As Effie said, it's a lot of work. At the last meeting, we had a presentation on something similar that's taking place in CB8, which kind of like is on the border of CB7, that little triangle off of, I forget the name of the street. But that's the kind of work that we were talking about, right? Effie, were you at the last meeting?
Oh yeah, we did
So
that, but it's not a flood proof measure.
Right, exactly. No,
Putting some green infrastructure is not going to solve flooding. And I don't know if that particular spot flooded.
Yeah.
You
As
know,
a matter of fact, I thought where it actually flooded was actually in the CB7 side, which is like almost over the median that's in the middle. So I don't know why they selected that particular piece there when there are areas actually on the parkway that get a lot of flooding. So that's a different, but again, I don't know, this is where we need to put our focus through the budget request, because I think this takes longer. I think putting stuff into these budget requests takes a lot longer than actually going directly to the agency and to the individuals who could help move some of this along a lot faster. And I agree that we need to possibly, by making 311 calls when these things happen, is what's going to get a lot of things done faster than just putting it here in a budget request. That's my opinion, but I will defer to the committee and we'll follow up on that. It's my recommendation that we remove this and follow up in a different way. If everyone's in agreement, fine. If not, then I'll just keep it in here and try to finesse it a little better. So with that said, I just want to get a sense of where people think on this before we move on to the expense item. It's the only capital item that we have from our committee. So I just want to get a sense from the committee how you feel about that. Can I get some feedback?
I think we should leave it in, but just touch up the explanation a little bit better.
Okay. All right. And Effie, I may
with Noel on that. Just leave it in and just kind of just flesh it out a little bit more.
Okay, Effie, I'll probably want to have your feedback on this so that it makes sense. If that's okay with you?
oh my goodness, absolutely.
Okay,
Just
fine.
remember, they're like two separate things going on there. GI is different than repairing catch basins.
Got it.
Also,
Okay.
when you say flooding, you say Bainbridge Avenue. What are the cross streets of where it's happening?
Okay.
Decatur Avenue, what are the cross streets? Van Cortlandt Ave East. I'm not sure if
All right.
that's a triangle or what, but be
Right.
more specific with that. Mhm.
Okay, all right, I'll work on it and then I'll just, run it by you to see if it makes sense. Okay, thank you on that one. All right, so let's move on to the expense items. So we have increased enforcement of dirty sidewalk, area failure to clean area laws. And again, that request comes from the actual guidelines. So the language that we're taking, we're trying to accommodate our needs with the language that is given to us by by OMB. So that request is a very specific request that comes from the guidelines, and then we explain it in ways that are relevant to the CB7. So this is where we fit in a request for increase in sanitation enforcement to improve the quality of our commercial corridors. And then we included those commercial corridors. I think that what we want to say is, yes, we want an increase in sanitation enforcement. I don't know if that also means an increase in personnel to do this. Steve, you're still on with us? I'm not sure. But this is the kind of thing that, and the agency has actually said that they will try to accommodate this request with existing resources. So I think we should keep this one. Yes,
I
Yeah.
think we,
go ahead. Who's talking?
That's Steve.
Steve, go ahead.
Sorry about that. I don't know if my video is working. I can't see myself, but regardless, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely request an increase in sanitation enforcement agents for sure.
Enforcement. Okay.
Long story short, the backbone of the department is cleaning and collection. That's our main focus. We do have an enforcement division, sure, but nonetheless, we could always use additional agents to just go on out there and focus on enforcement. So yes, please.
All right, fine, thank you. Okay. Anyone else have any?
Can we be more specific? Do we mean the whole Jerome Avenue from 233rd Street to Fordham Road? Do we mean Fordham Road from where to where?
I don't think we have to get, I'll find out from Aisha if we have to get it down to that level. I think we're looking at, these are the shopping, these are the commercial areas. Jerome Avenue, everyone knows is a we can say it's from Gun Hill or from all the way up from Woodlawn all the way down to whatever.
Because I would like to see Gun Hill Road included in that too.
Fine, I could include Gun Hill Road, the strip of Gun Hill Road that corresponds to CB7. Okay, fine, you can throw that in there. I'll put that in Gun Hill Road. Okay, anybody else? So we're keeping this one, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yes, anyone else? Okay. All right, increase enforcement of canine waste laws. Now, I'm gonna say that this is the most difficult one, and Steve can corroborate this. This is, we can put this in and leave this in. And as you can see, the response is due to fiscal constraints, the availability of funds is uncertain. This is one that requires a totally different set of, people think that you can just go up to somebody like an agent or a cop or whatever, and just go up to someone who's not picking up after their dog and issue a summons. That person has not carrying ID. Steve, am I correct? If they're not carrying ID, they can't issue a summons?
That is correct. The person has to willingly give us their ID to issue the
Thank you.
violation.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, so then you're taking someone, whoever it is, whoever an enforcement agent or whatever, how do you address this? And that is really if in fact we happen to have someone in that position who can actually see, because this has to be, they have to see it doing it. It's not us complaining about it. They have to see it. And as far as I know, there aren't many of these agents who come out and do this. Steve?
Correct. So any enforcement agent or uniformed officer can issue a violation if they observe someone not cleaning up their pet waste. But again, like you said, Betty, you actually have to catch them in the act of doing it, and then you have to get them to willingly give you their ID. So it's difficult. If anything, I would say maybe to focus more on education and just letting people know that it is illegal and you can receive a violation for it. That may be, that may be an avenue that we can explore
Yeah.
also.
So, yeah, so we have an increase in enforcement. Public education would be helpful in addressing this longstanding issue. Enforcement, again, I think is really going to be much more difficult than public education. And so, I'd like to finesse this somehow. I mean, we could keep it like this, but I know that the focus here is on the enforcement part and not the public education part of it. So I'm going to open it now to committee members. I see Lowell, you still have your hand up?
Yeah, I have lots of comments on all of them, so.
Okay, but so you want to comment
But
on this?
can we change it? Because for public relations purposes, we have for the community to look at Community Board 7 in good standing. We have to include something about picking up after your dog. And
I know,
whether,
but no,
But we
understood, yes. That's part of the public education part of this.
so rephrase it to say increase public awareness funding. In there, something about this issue.
Okay, all right, I've got that down. I understand what you mean. Okay, who else? Someone had their hand up. Was that Hugo?
Yeah, how about, I don't know, how about putting up some dummy cameras in the general area?
They can't do that. No, you have to, it has to be in the act. You have to be there in the act of, not after the
I
fact.
thought about that. I was just thinking about, how people put up the fake.
Right,
camera
right.
look things.
Right. But
Would
again,
that
that's
help,
not,
or-
that's, to me, I would see that as like a wasted resource, just putting up dummy cam, because it's not gonna keep people from
Doing
not
it.
doing it. I mean,
All
it
right.
has to be at the time. So let's say I'm walking my dog and the camera or the supposed camera catches me not picking up after my dog. Oh, when am I gonna get, who's gonna come after me for, for a violation? No one. I think that we just need to really increase. We'll have to do public awareness about the health issues related to, dog waste, how it affects not only, our health, health of the other animals, and, when people use our tree pits, the damage that it does to our trees, our street trees, et cetera. So we just really just gonna have to hammer away at that kind of stuff. Steve, is there any other, and I've also looked at this in other cities and other communities. It seems like it's a tough one to go. The most extreme was, I think, Israel, a city in Israel where they actually took every dog's DNA.
Oh, wow.
It's not even Tel Aviv, it was a small part of Israel. They took every dog's DNA, and when they came across dog waste, they were able to test
Love it.
the DNA and then go back to the guilty party. I mean, that's the extreme. Obviously, we can't do that here, but yes, Celine, go ahead.
So I know this is a big ask, but again, in terms of being more specific, we used to have those wonderful comic books. Maybe we need to start asking for it again if we're talking about education.
Okay, but we can be very, very specific again. What I want to focus on in this budget request is not things that we can just quickly ask an agency of. We're trying to address a bigger picture, yes, and we can include that. We can say, but I don't think we need to put that in here. This just
Right.
needs to say, we want to do more public awareness via printed materials, signage. We can say all of that if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
fine.
more detail would let them know specifically what we want. I mean, ideally, we had the signs. The signs made a very big difference. I don't know if you want to mention that. They've closed the sign shops as well as the print shop. Unless that's changed, maybe if we keep asking for it, they will reconsider it.
Well, those signs were not done, they were not done by Department of
Right.
Sanitation.
We had to pay for them.
We
Right.
pay for those. Those would be
Yeah,
our
so,
signs.
yeah.
So yeah, but that, again, that doesn't have to go in here. That's not that budget request. This is asking the agency for certain things, not the CB7. We can.
No, I know. I understand that. I'm just saying
Okay.
sometimes, that I think, I don't really see why CB7 should have to make up their own signs. Technically, I would expect that the city of New York would have a stamped
Okay, we
sign.
can, well, then what I'll do
It's
is
just an ask. It's,
I will put it in, an
Yeah.
increase in enforcement, public awareness via, literature, signage, that kind of thing. I'll work
yeah,
on.
I mean, it is a big health issue.
Okay, no, it is. It definitely is. It definitely is. I mean, the signs that we put up definitely indicate, that is a health issue.
Right,
That's what we want to focus on. We really need to get back to that, how much this is an issue. But again, as far as enforcement, let's be realistic. We may not see that. So
No, I hear
enforcement is
you.
gonna have to come from public responsibility, personal responsibility from dog owners.
Right.
Okay?
So
Okay. That's my cat.
that's gotta be.
One of my cats. Okay, anyone else?
Thank you, Betty.
So we'll keep this in here and I will fill it out more based on the recommendations that you made. Helene, you put your hand up again. Your hand is up or down? Helene?
I forgot to take it down,
Oh,
sorry.
okay, all right, got it. All right, fine, all right. Okay, so, and this one is a big one, request expand, or we're gonna continue to hammer away on this one. We sent a letter last month. We approved a letter to our city council and others regarding curbside, the resumption of curbside composting. So we'll continue. This one definitely, it says funding for this program was restored. That's not true. It hasn't, the expansion hasn't happened, so we need to keep this in there. Okay, Celine, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was saying, oops, let me get back. I was saying that it does need to be removed because it hasn't been restored.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So we have
Funding may have been restored, but not throughout the city.
Actually, that was their comment, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That was their comment, right. It has to stay there. Okay. The other one is to expand opportunities for electronic waste collection and disposal. This is the other issue that we're not getting that back, right, Steve? E-waste, curbside e-waste collection?
Correct. As of right now, that program is still suspended as well.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna keep this in there because we think it's important. And then, yeah, go ahead, Lo.
If they have the site at Hunts Point, I think maybe we should put this, rephrase an explanation saying, even though you have a site located in the Bronx, we need something for the local people who can't get to that site at Hunts Point.
Fine, okay. Well,
Because
we
they
have to
may come
provide
back and say, hey, we've got this site in the Bronx, use that.
Okay, so we're talking about making the curbside e-waste
electronic-
collection more, it's more accessible for people who cannot travel to a facility.
It
So-
should be more centralized, Betty, because going over the Hunts Point area, and I know I go over there, that's really sort of out of the way.
I understand. No, I understand what you're saying. I think that the
Something
idea of,
centralized that we can get to easier, that we can distribute this material that we want to get rid of.
so we can
It's a
say,
great point,
we
yeah.
want to restore curbside e-waste collection and or provide access to more or more accessible facilities than just the Hunts Point site.
Yes,
Okay?
and an additional special household waste drop-off site,
Okay,
because that's the name of it, a special household waste drop-off site.
special household
Waste drop-off site.
drop-off site. Okay.
An additional one.
We
Mhm.
want, we want to see that expanded. If we can't get the curbside e-waste collection, which I think was great. I don't even know we had it much. It wasn't around for very long. But the idea of having more of those drop-off sites, that would be great. Okay. I think at the bottom, this is from our notes from last time. We had more enforcement of street vendors and permits to address the trash problems. Vendors with permits are more likely to be conscientious of keeping the areas clean to avoid losing their permits. Do you find that street vendors, or where there are street vendors are, that there is more trash around their area that they're not picking up after themselves?
It's not so much street vendors, because take Jerome Avenue between Gun Hill going toward 204. So you have all of these vendors out here, the garbage is out on the street when they take it out at night. You do have street vendors. Some of them are just random people. Some of them are connected to the stores that they're standing in front of. But the place is such an unholy mess when you come down Jerome Avenue. You have to hop, skip, and jump, and half the time you can't get down the sidewalk because between the street vendors and the store managers who have outside things on the street in front of their stores, it's really, really very difficult to get through. And as AJ is saying, and the rats.
Right, so that's an issue that I also remember when I was doing leafleting, giving out literature to the stores along 204th Street. We had a couple of, you know how like those vegetable stands, those fruit stands, like they kind of like come out, they put all their displays and you can barely walk, you know, between where they have it. And there is a regulation that they are so not supposed to exceed certain, you know, they have to provide, I think it's like, I don't know, it's 36 inches, Steve, you can chime in. They have a limit as to how far they can go out into the sidewalk with their displays.
Yep, so it's 3 feet from the building line. That's the law.
But it
There
gets, but they violate it all the time.
Yeah, so 3 feet from the building line, unless if business is enrolled in the open storefronts program, in which case it becomes 5 feet from the building line, as long as it allows for 8 feet to the curb line for pedestrian traffic.
So Jerome, so I'm assuming.
That's not what's happening on Jerome Avenue, I can tell you that.
We need, but okay, so that's something we're going to need to address. This is not going to be part of this, but Steve, that's something that we're going to need to address because that is becoming an issue. More and more of these street, and these are people who, I don't even know they have permits. People who just like pop up, there are these pop-up kinds of things that are going on. People selling flowers, plants, all kinds of things. And I have no idea, masks. I have no idea if they have permits or not. And they're putting up, you know, they're taking up a lot of sidewalk space.
Okay,
So I
so,
think-
yep, I'm sorry, as far as what I had just said about the 3 feet from the building line, that's for actual storefront displays. Vendors, unlicensed street vendors fall under the purview of DCWP. So if a vendor is unlicensed, our jurisdiction is very limited. DCWP is the agency that would need to be contacted for any issues with the unlicensed vendors. For licensed vendors, on the other hand, we can certainly step in and lend some support and some enforcement with any licensed vendor.
And also stores that exceed that, like we've given, I know that I've given, and I think Syria also has given, there's a couple of places along 204 that are far exceed the, none of them are enrolled, because I looked it up. None of them are enrolled in this open street kind of thing. None of them are enrolled.
Okay, then yeah, that would fall under DSNY jurisdiction, and we can go on over there and issue violations if need be.
So what I want from each of the community board members, I would like specific addresses of stores, not the vendors on the other side of the site. We'll have to deal with that through another source. But the ones that have stores that, you know, the vegetable fruit stands that go far into the sidewalk, anything like that, let me know. I want like specific addresses so I could then share that with Steve and have him and the enforcement officers follow up with the stores on that one, okay? So just send that to me.
Okay, because it's really the store vendors I'm talking about, not the
Right,
people
okay,
out on the
okay.
street.
Okay,
Because they have you walking single file past their stores
absolutely,
because they got stuff on both sides.
Right,
So
so
they
it's
going way
those.
beyond their 3 feet.
right. So those are the ones that and I have a couple of those as well, but it's like they not only do they exceed the 3 feet, but then they're coming from the curb into the sidewalk as well. So they're trying to get you in both ends and you can barely walk through, pass them by. So definitely, yes, we'll need to get those. And then we'll follow up with street vendors if that's the case. The other piece, Syria, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, two-part. The store on Jerome, not only are the fruit stands extended out on the sidewalk, but they now have taken over the parking in front of their stores. They place crates out there and they put the food on that to display it. They're
Okay.
moving parking from the community on
Okay.
Jerome Avenue, and it's because of the city giving all the restaurants those little hutches to build in the street. These guys are doing monkey see, monkey do, and they're taking over the parking spaces by putting their produce out there on crates.
Okay, because you could just share, like I said, addresses of those so we can follow up. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I will.
Thank you. The other one was we had funding to educate the community on helping controlling, eliminate the rat population and addressing poor sanitation and garbage storage in our neighborhoods. This is also part of our strategic plan. It is a lot of this information we put in as a priority, sanitation and health conditions and the growing rat population, growth in the rat population, which is not just limited to CB7. It is a citywide, serious citywide problem. And I think Rosalie Leslie had suggested a program offered by the city for building superintendents and homeowners on how to manage their sanitation and garbage storage. Steve, is there any kind of program like that now? Or is it just all literature that we give to homeowners and commercial enterprises?
So with the new law that had gone into effect with the requirement for the waste management plan of 150 plus units, there's also, as I had mentioned before, we're offering guidance on zero waste management plans. So we do have that. As far as buildings that are smaller than that, I don't have any literature specific to that.
Okay.
But if we had any interest and maybe some building supers wanted to speak to somebody about how they could better manage their waste to eliminate some of or mitigate some of the rat and rodent issues, I can certainly put them in contact with someone that could point them in the right direction.
Okay, I mean, we'll look at that. I mean, one of the things is I'm hoping a lot of people have taken advantage and seen the Rat Academy training, have taken the Rat Academy training. If not, please do so. There are a couple of more opportunities through the end of June, and see if you can check that out. In addition, I have noticed, and I know a lot of the focus when we talk about sanitation and garbage storage, I know quite a number of superintendents, and I looked at a lot of the focus is mostly on what the superintendent has to do. Not a lot is on the residents of the building, how they need to do their part as well. I've seen people just go downstairs and just throw a bag in the direction of their wherever their garbage is thrown. I mean, they don't even bother to put it into a receptacle. I've just seen them throw it. I've seen them leave bags in front of the superintendent has a sign. This is the time when you should be bringing your garbage down, and don't leave it out here. And they leave it outside anyway. So you'll see bags of garbage outside of I guess the basement or where the trash would be collected. People don't bring their keys. They don't bother to bring their keys to open up and go downstairs to deposit their garbage. So, you know, again, this all has to do with personal responsibility, like we have with people who are dog owners. The same thing with garbage. People need to remember that they need to do that. I actually took some pictures this morning of garbage bags along my block that were all ripped open by rats. But you can see why, because they were having a feast. There was fruit and vegetables all in those bags, all along my block. The houses further up my block were all ripped open by cats. Don't eat fruit and vegetables. That was done by rats, or maybe even raccoons that get into the, you know, people don't know how to properly store their garbage. And when you have buildings, I've met superintendents where they do a beautiful job. They have signage, they have the recyclable receptacles, they have what's for the garbage, and still people will throw, you know, they just don't do the right thing. So we'll just have to continue to work on something like that. And I think the city's going to have to address this somehow, because the rat population has increased considerably.
I'd like to say something.
Mhm.
You know, we're okay, you know, the residents in our neighborhood aren't taking care of themselves. I'll grant you that. But we're a neighborhood that's going through lots of building. And I will tell you, the
Oh,
real
yeah.
slobs are the workers of the building. Because we've had 3 buildings in my neighborhood go up.
Mhm.
And one, it disturbs the existing rats, which we never had. And then the workers come in, and I will tell you, they're slobs.
You
They
mean the
leave-
workers, I'm sorry, the workers who have built, the building workers or
They're
the,
building the places,
the construction workers?
the construction workers.
Okay.
And they're literally slobs. They leave their bottles, you know, their soda cans, their sandwich wrappers. They have no trash cans. They have no bags out, you know, to put their trash in. And we're across, you know, from on the other side of the street from where I live, we didn't have rat problems till they put up a new building.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden we've got a rat problem.
Right. It's displacing, yeah, whatever was there
And I mean,
before.
I can grant you some of our neighbors aren't the best, but it was because these new buildings are going up.
Right.
And I think, like they said, with the new buildings, the city has to say something about, you know, please put trash cans up for your workers, you know, make sure you dispose of your trash properly. And I think when we interview buildings going up, and we talk about, okay, how many affordable housings are you going to have? How many, you know, ADA studios are you going to have? You're going to have ramps, or you're going to have a laundry. We're going to have to say, what are you making the construction workers do?
Mhm.
Are you having them put out, you know, traps for the rats? Are you going to make sure the workers dispose of their trash properly? And I think it's, you know, we need to ask these questions of the builders of all these new buildings that are coming into the area, which are making the rat problem bigger.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Now, that's something that maybe we should bring up at either at a general board meeting or something that you can share with the housing committee and say, you know, in the future, when that should be one of the questions asked, in addition to what seem to be the important, obvious questions. These are the less obvious, but as important. You know, what kind of measures are you taking to mitigate, you know, since you're disrupting what possibly could be home of rats for quite a while. Now that you're disrupting their nests or whatever, where they're going, what are you doing to mitigate that whole problem? And so that they're not dispersed and going into other people's homes and houses. A good point, very good point. Yeah, thank you. All right, so we'll keep that in. I'm going to see how we address those 2 bullet points at the bottom, and how do we incorporate that I don't know if this is really like a one for health and because rat population and control, that's a Department of Health issue. So we'll have to, I'll share that with the Health and Human Services Committee. And on the issue of what's on the top, further one, I just need to get from you places where we can address some of the problems that we have. I know that we had a trash problem along Meshuggah Parkway, the train station at Meshuggah. There was some complaints last year about the vendors that are there underneath the subway, the elevated, leaving their boxes or whatever, but I think that problem was taken care of, as far as I know. I'm not sure, since I don't go up that way much, but if you do see that as an issue, again, I don't think it needs to be a budget issue. That just needs to be a 311 report and letting us know what's going on. I mean, I think we need to do that a lot more, is use 311 to the extent possible, and then also notify the office, because the office will take that information and follow up with the appropriate agency. So please bear that in mind and use that as a resource, okay? I'm going to stop sharing and come back and see everybody's face so I can see everybody here. I just want to check and see if there are questions and comments in the chat. Can you put the information about the Rat Academy again? Okay, I'll have to look for it. Jean, if not, I'll just send it to you, okay?
Thanks, Betty.
All right, I'll send that again. It is still there, no, rats are still there and the holes are huge. I don't know what that is about. Fordham Road, Rain Pizza Shop, okay. Yes, there's a lot of garbage everywhere, folks. I mean, again, you just gotta make 311 calls. We can't address this everywhere, so just make those 311 calls, notify the office with your report number, and hopefully they can follow up, okay? Anyway, I want to thank everyone. I will follow up and clean up our request. Thank you for your input. Our next meeting will be in September. More than likely it'll be in person, but I'm not sure. We'll see what happens with that. Is anything anyone wants to add before we close? It's almost 9 o'clock. Anyone have any comments before we adjourn?
Just a quick question. Do we have Stephen's contact information? Is that in the chat? I didn't see it.
Did you put in the chat, Steve, your?
I just have to add my my email address.
Okay, so if you could add that, and then before I close off the meeting, yeah, go ahead and put it in. All right. Let me see any messages. I asked the office about another problem. Okay, AJ, mulch is not dumping. The mulch is put there for the purpose of making it easier for parks to be able to mulch the trees. That's what that mulch is there for. It is not dumped. It is there as part of the work that's being done. It's also done in Withensbridge Oval Park. So it is where it is a pile of mulch, and it is not dirt. It will eventually be dispersed and used to mulch all the trees along the area, okay? And if you submitted photos, you can submit them to the office so we can see them. I don't know who you submitted the photos to. All right, so Steve, you see it, Jean? He put in his
Yeah, I was just copying it down. Thank you,
okay,
Stephen.
all right, very good. All right, very good. Okay, so folks, I want to thank you all for attending, and thank you for your input. We'll follow up again in September. Many of you I will see at subsequent committee meetings and a general board meeting later on in June, probably in person for the first time. Everyone have a good evening. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank
Good
you very
evening.
much. Thank you. Take care, Serial. Always good to see you. And
Vice versa. Have a nice summer, everybody.
yeah, well,
Thank you, you
yeah.
too, Celia.
Yep, everyone have a good summer.
Have a
and
good summer and stay safe.
Yeah.
Steve, I'll see you on the 17th.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, and by the way, Lowell, I just wanted to follow up real quick with you. If you can get me the information about the super and that cat, we're trying to still follow up on that cat. She got fixed, but there might be something wrong there. Okay, so if you can get me a phone number that I can call him. Okay, thank you. Okay, folks, have a safe evening, enjoy the rest of it, and have a good rest of the week. Take care, folks.
Good night, all.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, how do I stop recording?